Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the GCSAA Podcast, presented in partnership with Envu. You can learn more about the company and its offerings in the golf industry by going to www.us.envu.com and looking for the Turf and Ornamentals Management tab at the top of the page. I'm your host, Scott Hollister, the editor-in-chief of GCSAA's Golf Course Management Magazine, and I'm happy to have you joining us for episode 53 of the podcast. Well, the 2023 U.S. Women's Open is right around the corner, and this year's edition promises to be notable for a host of reasons. Not only is this the first time the women's major will be contested at the famed Pebble Beach Golf Links, but it also marks the third year running that a large group of women turfgrass professionals will serve as anchors of the volunteer team assembled to help prepare the course for play each day. And what better way to tee all of that up than by talking to our guest today, who is Bubba Wright, the golf course superintendent at Pebble Beach, who will be welcoming these women in turf to the Monterey Peninsula. We will talk about Bubba's career, his full-time team's preparations for the Women's Open, and what it means for him to be playing such a big part in furthering the women in turf movement. Bubba is a great guy. He's got a long track record at Pebble Beach, so we're honored to have Bubba Wright join us for the 53rd episode of the GCSAA podcast. And just to toot our own horn a little here, we'll be spending a few days of U.S. Women's Open Week with the team at Pebble Beach. So you'll be able to follow along with all the golf course management comings and goings starting Monday, July 3rd. Just keep an eye on gcmonline.com, our social media feeds on Twitter and Facebook, and GCSA TV, because our friends over there will be providing behind-the-scenes video coverage as well. Again, the fun starts July 3rd from Pebble Beach, so remember to check that out. One other reminder for you before we get going, please remember to check out the new video version of the podcast that's available on both GCSAA TV and GCSAA's YouTube channel. That medium offers us the ability to do some cool visual things that aren't available to us in an audio-only world. For example, there will be lots of pretty pictures of Pebble Beach in the video version of this episode. So please take some time to explore those options if you are so inclined. And with that, I have no more reminders for you. This is episode 53 of the GCSAA podcast featuring Pebble Beach Superintendent Bubba Wright. Well, it's not often that I feel comfortable enough to reach out to someone hosting a major championship just a few short weeks out and ask if they'll appear on the podcast. But I did in this case, and I asked Bubba Wright from Pebble Beach to join us on the eve of the 2023 Women's Open. Bubba, I'm not sure if you should be honored or offended that I would ask you with this little amount of time before you guys are hosting a major. But either way, I'm super psyched that you agreed to join us. How's everything with you?
Yeah, we're doing well. I appreciate you having me on. It means a lot, and I'm a little bit of both, honored and offended.
Good. As long as I can walk that line, I think I'm doing okay.
It's a tightrope. We're doing it well.
That's right. Well, we used to say when I was back in my newspaper days in the sports department, if we made the different fan bases equally mad, we felt like we were doing our job. So I'm gonna extend that to this thing. As listeners are listening to this, again, we are the Women's Open's right around the corner, and so there are going to be a lot of listeners who will get a chance to listen to this in advance of the tournament, and that's awesome. I also know there's going to be a handful of listeners who will probably catch this after the fact, and I will tell you that hopefully we'll have some good stuff here that will satisfy. Definitely we'll get into the preparations for the Women's Open, but we'll also talk a little bit about Bubba's career, what it's like to maintain turf at Pebble Beach, all that kind of fun stuff. So hopefully something for everyone in this episode. So since we're talking Women's Open, why don't we go ahead and start there and just how you feeling? We're not far off from the event. How are you and the team feeling? Just kind of a status report of what you guys are going through right now.
Yeah. Well, we're feeling great. Very confident at this point. The golf course is in fantastic shape. Really kind of ready to make the run to the tournament and through championship week. And the team's done just an outstanding job. They're very, very tournament tested. A lot of experience on my team. So it's always great getting to see them in action, preparing for a major, because they always know when to kind of turn it up a notch. But we've had very favorable weather. Number one, it's been nice and cool. We've had some late rains on the West Coast, which is always huge. and golf course is really primed right now. It's great to see.
For California, a super unusual winter. And I know I saw there were obviously viral videos from up and down your neck of the woods. I'm pretty familiar with I've been fortunate enough to visit you guys on 5 or 6 occasions. So how did that winter weather impact you guys? Did it impact your preparations? Obviously you had another event prior to this one on the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, the AT&T. How did that weather kind of impact you guys as you ramped up for your season this year?
Yeah, it was a challenge. Mother Nature threw us some curveballs over the winter. We had a lot of rain, a lot of wind, some really damaging surf coming off the coast. So it was pretty unique. It was a tough AT&T, had the Monday finish. So it's always something you try to avoid, but you just never know what you're going to get. We call that Crosby weather. So we got one of those Crosby years. But, I felt like at that time we were kind of paying our dues to have a great women's open. And what that did is allow us to have, really flushed, healthy soils going into the championship, ample water supply. So as challenging as it was, for those couple months in the winter, it's really paid off now in a great golf course. So we'll take that. We'll take a couple down trees and maybe some saltwater intrusion on 18 fairway to have what we got now.
Yeah, this is the footage from I guess that was Monterey Peninsula, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was old Chris Dollenhammer for everybody else.
Yeah, your former colleague there.
Yeah.
Got to enjoy a little bit of that.
I try to keep my videos from going viral.
That's right.
That's
probably a great rule of thumb for a golf course superintendent is
leave no trace. So
2019 Men's Open. Any significant changes to the golf course between that event and this one? And again, certainly different circumstance at Pebble Beach because most fans and casual viewers of professional golf will see the course annually. But how would you describe any changes that have taken place to the golf course between then and now?
Yeah, well, we had a short little break there. After the Men's Open with COVID, obviously everything kind of shut down. Didn't have a lot of projects going. So really, what we had to do once things started to open back up was, condense 3-4 years of projects into 2. During that time, we renovated our greens on number 8 and 11, which were fantastic projects. Allowed us to get more pin locations. If you remember in 2019, we basically had one location on both those greens to put a pin and move it a foot every day for the championship, so pretty unique. We're an older course, 104 years. And so the greens were designed for a little slower green speeds at that time. So we got some great pin locations on those holes. And we also renovated all of our forward tees on the golf course. Now, the women won't play most of those tees, but it was a great initiative that we had for the women's game and growing the game of golf. And we also renovated all of our bunkers on the property, new bunker sand, new sod around our edges. So we've been busy. We've been hard at work.
How do you manage projects like that, say like a bunker project? And I had this question in another part of the interview, but I think it kind of fits here. And I've always been curious about this because whether you're hosting a major championship, a PGA Tour event, or it's just a normal Tuesday, someone playing your property, unlike I'm sure there are a handful of other properties we could lump in with Pebble Beach, but every day someone is probably crossing something off their bucket list by playing your golf course. And I'm always curious, does that add any extra pressure to you or your team? And how do you manage when there are projects that just have to be done? How do you manage knowing that you're going to have people playing there and going, well, why is there a backhoe parked behind that tree over there when this is supposed to be pristine, beautiful Pebble Beach that I'm playing? So what is that like for you and your crew?
Yeah, we don't close down. We're open 365 days a year, and we don't shut down the tee sheet for any capital improvement projects. So really, it's about number one, communication. Whether it's with the pro shop staff, informing the guests of what's going on in the golf course, so they're prepared. 2, and communicating with our team to make every project, as less impactful as possible, whether, how we go about maneuvering on the property, where the project's taking place. And when we renovate a green, we'll actually build what you would call a temporary green. We like to call it an alternate green. We'll actually sod it, to bent grass, get it rolling the same speed as the rest of the greens on the golf course. So it's certainly a challenge, but it's about limiting the impact on the rest of the property too. So if you got a big project going on somewhere, maybe the rest of the golf course is staying a little bit quieter. So you do have that once in a lifetime experience every time, like we preach, but it's tough, because like you said, we have the Pro-Am, and then this year we have Women's Open Championship, and in the fall we'll have the Pure Insurance Championship, and one of our internal tournaments called the PBI. So you're always kind of ramping up for a tournament, and then once it's over, you're gearing up into your projects and having them all tie together. So it's a nice dance we do.
Yeah, and there's not to mention the little car show that you guys are host to we can talk about a little bit later. Are there any tips or tricks that you guys employ to kind of minimize those sorts of impacts that you go, man, if every other golf course, even golf courses that are just a daily fee course, are there things that you guys do that you think other superintendents would be like, man, that's a hell of an idea, we should absolutely do something like that, or just lessons you've learned over the years as you've managed these kind of things?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything groundbreaking. I touched on it, with our alternate green. If we're building a green and having to shut down, an iconic hole, trying to make whatever the alternative is the best that you possibly can, and so if you're working on bunkers, making sure that, what we do is renovating bunkers, we'll go from one bunker until that one's done. You're not going to the next one because that's more impactful to your guests, right? We're paying a premium to come onto your property, but there's a lot of things that we do working around play. I mean, with our aerifications, we go behind play in the evenings and in front of play in the next morning, and do all of these, impactful maintenance projects around play the best that we possibly can. It definitely affects your schedule, but just requires a lot of planning and a really dedicated team. So
you obviously have a great team there. A lot of people that have been on property for a long time know the ins and outs of the property. You've obviously got some friends nearby who you can turn to with any questions and things like that. And speaking of that, you're in kind of a different role this time than you were the last the major in 2019. Chris Dahlhammer was in charge then. He has moved down the road a little bit to Monterey Peninsula Country Club, and you've assumed charge. How has that changed things for you, and both in your preparations for the event, the role you play there, and then as you look ahead to just a few weeks' time, the role that you will play during the week of the championship?
Yeah, well, I definitely get less sleep these days, I'll tell you that. So all the assistants out there, listen, make sure you take advantage of the sleep while you can get it. But I was incredibly fortunate to have a really amazing mentor in Chris Dahlhammer, and really, showed me the ropes over a long period of time. I started, in 2010 as an intern for Chris for that U.S. Open, and the next one came around, I was an assistant as well for the U.S. Amateur, and now the superintendent. So I've gotten to see it, from all the angles, whether it's being on the crew, being an assistant superintendent, now superintendent. So, it's definitely, a lot for me to draw on with past experiences. And there's a ton of continuity on this crew. I have people who've been here for 45, 40, 35 years. So they've seen the property evolve. They've seen all the championships come through. They know what to expect. And there's really, kind of a sense of calm on the crew, even in the face of a storm. We don't really, try not to get our feathers ruffled too much as we go about our preparations. And for me, it's just kind of going from quarterback to coach is how I looked at it. I was, really managing the day-to-day operations with the team, preparing the golf course, executing the tournament. Well, now it's more of just a high level, okay, making sure everything's checked off and getting the assistants on the same page so we can have that same execution. So it's been a great process.
Yeah, you get to deal with media yahoos like me, and
that's the biggest
all that fun stuff. Can't let Chris have all the fun back in the day, and so we'll make sure to keep you busy during the week of the tournament as well. We'll talk a little bit about that down the line here. I want to mention, and you talk about we're talking about the roles that you play. You are going to be welcoming a large group of volunteers, like any professional event will do. Yours this year will be a little bit special. This is the third year running. You'll have a large group of women turfgrass professionals who will be volunteering for you. So I'm just interested in your perspective on that, and how you guys are looking forward to kind of furthering that movement on with having, last count, I think it was up over 35 females, either superintendents, assistant superintendents, perhaps they're working in industry, things like that. But these are all folks who've prepared for tournaments before, been in these roles. How exciting is that for you and your guys to be a part of that with the Women's Open?
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting. We're looking at this championship is, it's groundbreaking for us. It's historic. It's our first Women's U.S. Open, which is a big deal for our team, for our company. And so being able to have, the majority of the volunteer team being supported by females in the industry is huge, and I'm not concerned at all that they're going to come in here. They're very positive. I was fortunate enough to go up in 2021 to see Troy at Olympic Club when this first got going, and I was really kind of blown away by their attention to detail, their work ethic, the positive attitude they brought for the whole week. You know how tournaments go. You get to Thursday and Friday, and you kind of start losing steam, and there was none of that going on there. They really picked up the entire team and got them to the finish line. So really, once I saw that, it was a total no-brainer to have them out to Pebble and keep this thing going. And I remember Troy was talking about, are we going to be able to fill enough volunteers and with women, and we're having to turn people away now. So I think that tells you how the program has grown and evolved, and really just gaining a lot of steam. So it's fantastic. We're really excited.
Yeah, fired up a couple of years ago at the Olympic Club when Troy hosted. Continued following year at Pine Needles out in North Carolina. And the crew out there did a wonderful job. And so I think it's exciting for the industry. And we're, GCSA will have a member of our staff, Shalia Finney, will be out there assisting. She is she proved her worth in Nashville. So she's got some turf grass chops, even though we tried to beat her down with some office work since she's joined the association, but she'll be out there, and it's going to be a great event. In addition to all the regular work they will provide, are there any special events going on throughout the week that they'll be able to take advantage of? Just being on a property as special as Pebble Beach?
Yeah, so we have a lot of downtime between our morning and our PM maintenance. So we have a few things scheduled. One is kind of an environmental talk. That's really a big initiative for our company. And we're going to, talk about all the things that we do from a Audubon standpoint, reuse, recycle standpoint, reclaimed water, all the initiatives involved, in the Del Monte Forest for, sustainability of golf course and really hotel management as well. And then the first green is coming out as well on Monday. Championship week. So that's going to be great, having the kids out, getting to show them the equipment, all the technology involved with golf, hopefully getting them excited, maybe making a few future superintendents, hopefully. So, there's a lot of educational opportunities, not so much later in the week, because I imagine they'll probably be more concerned with sleeping, but
that's right.
in between rounds, but it's a great opportunity for all the team involved, and hopefully anybody listening will jump on board with the Women in Turf. It's a great program.
Yeah, that I was going to mention the first green event on Monday of tournament week. Unfortunately, I don't land in Monterey until about a half hour into that event, so I'm not sure we'll make it on property in time. But it's an awesome event, and we were able to, and I say we, meaning the association, was able to kind of pull something together at Torrey Pines during the Farmers earlier this year on the Monday of tournament week. And it was super successful. It was an awesome opportunity to get the kids actually on a golf course that's preparing to host a big event. And so to be able to do this at an iconic venue like Pebble Beach and just obviously the background alone will be spectacular, but the fact that it'll be set up for a major championship and get these kids, give them an opportunity makes a great program even better. So, where do you watch fireworks on July 4th there in Monterey? You're going to set something up right on the 10th hole there or something? We get to climb out in the fairway and watch? Or?
Yeah, exactly. I might have to, maybe there'll be a drone light show somewhere or something I can check out, but not too many fireworks around here. The fog tends to get in the way this time of year. The old marine layer, but it's I can't think of a better place to be celebrating holiday at America's Public Golf Course. So
yeah, there are worse places to do that. So
yeah.
well, we're gonna just a quick reminder for listeners: GCM and GCSA TV will have lots of coverage from behind the scenes at Pebble Beach. We'll be on site there, so make sure to check out. I mentioned this earlier in the introduction to the podcast, but check out gcmonline.com, our social media channels on Twitter and Facebook, and also GCSA TV during the week of the event and after. We'll have lots of fun stuff from behind the scenes at the Women's Open. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back, and we'll talk a little more with Bubba Wright from Pebble Beach right after this. More to come with Pebble Beach's Bubba Wright, but now let's take a moment to share a word from Envu, which is committed to working with golf course superintendents to accomplish great things on the course every day. The company has the expertise and innovative solutions to help you navigate turf challenges year-round while achieving the most consistent playing conditions possible. Among those challenges are white grubs and the destructive animals that feed on them that target both warm and cool season turf grasses. To protect your course, you'll want to apply an insecticide as soon as you see the adults because their larvae will appear just a few weeks later. Tetrino insecticide from Envu is a dependable solution that delivers fast-acting, season-long control on grubs and other turf-damaging pests. Mild temperatures and spring rains create an ideal environment for the spread of Pythium, another of those challenges that face both warm and cool season turfgrass managers. Banol fungicide is an outstanding solution to that problem that will help keep your greens healthy this spring and set them up for success all season. And right now, you can save big with Envu's Banol Fungicide First program, which runs through June 30th. Visit rewards.envu.us to log in or sign up for My Envu Rewards. And off the course, Envu has the future of the industry in mind with their support of the Green Start Academy, a leadership and development program co-hosted by Envu with John Deere and Rainbird. Assistant superintendents will have the opportunity to make lasting connections and will attend sessions with respected industry leaders. This year's event takes place December 6th through the 9th at the Pinehurst Resort in North Carolina, and applications are being accepted through August 1st. For more information and to apply, go to us.envu.com/Green Start Academy, and there are hyphens between Green Start and Academy to learn more about the agronomic solutions that can help you protect your turf from harmful diseases and pests. Contact your Envu representative or go to us.envu.com/golf solutions. And once again, there's a hyphen between golf and solutions. Always read and follow label instructions, and remember that not all products are registered for use in all states. Our thanks again to everyone at Envu for their ongoing support of the GCSAA podcast. And now back to more with Bubba Wright. All right, we are back with Bubba Wright, superintendent at Pebble Beach Golf Links, which is in preparations for hosting the 2023 U.S. Women's Open. We spent the first part of the podcast kind of discussing that event and all the awesome stuff that's going to take part of it. Bob, I want to take a little bit, kind of talk about your origin story, your career, your life at Pebble Beach. Where you're from, where'd you grow up, and where did your interest in the game of golf come from?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in a small town outside of Fresno, California, which if you're not familiar with California, it's in basically the exact center of the state. My granddad is really who got me involved in the game of golf. I grew up as a baseball player and running track and doing just about everything except golf, but he always drug me out there and kind of got me going. And I'd powder around with clubs in my hand. So I finally fell in love with it, so he really established my love for the game, love for the outdoors as well. So really all the credit goes to him. And so I grew up in the mountains, and when I started going to college, I was actually probably similar to you. I was a journalism major.
Really?
I wanted to be a sports reporter, but found that was pretty competitive.
Yes.
And so at the same time, I was working on a golf course in high school and throughout college, and the whole time, I loved it. Loved being outside. I had an ag background growing up. My family kind of had a pseudo farm, so being able to combine sports and agriculture into a career was, very, very attractive for me. And I was fortunate to learn from some great people. And I had a superintendent in the Valley that kind of pointed me in the right direction and said, hey, you can do this for a career. Here's where you need to go. You go to school here and try to find the best internships you can, and really got me going in the right direction. I studied at Fresno City College for a few years, got a little associates in business management, then went out to Rutgers 2-year program, studied turf there. And really my big break came when I got an internship for the 2010 US Open. So.
Well, we would love to have you in the on the sports journalism side. I spent, as you talk about the competitiveness, I spent many, many years covering small high school football and basketball, and started to generally got to branch out a little bit, and got just enough big time college and pro sports in Kansas City, where I'm from, to kind of keep me going. And but that'll just be, I'll just have to keep that in the back of my mind when I'm looking for someone to write stories for the magazine. So we'll
exactly
talk later.
Yeah, maybe my retirement job, Scott. Once you leave, I'll start doing.
We'll talk later. Well, you know what? Listen, if I'm still around when you're retired, buddy, we'll have I might have other problems to deal with. But was there? Do you remember a moment when your love of the game and when you were like the light bulb went off and you said, holy cow, I actually kind of like the turf side of this. I might not be Tiger Woods, but there is a side of this game that does appeal to me, can provide for me and my family. Did you have one of those kind of moments?
Yeah, not necessarily an aha moment, but really when I would say the summer of my freshman year in college, I was working on the golf course every morning, playing golf every afternoon. I had a buddy there that worked with me that was going to Cal Poly and is now a superintendent as well. So, he had already decided that was what he was going to do. So I really kind of followed along in his path and said, wow, this is a pretty awesome profession. And the more I got into it, the more mentoring I received, really found out it was something that, you can have a very prosperous, successful career in and provide for yourself and your family. And so that's really how that got going. Well,
and you have been, Pebble Beach is your only real professional stop. You started there and you can correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, but you started as an intern there and have kind of progressed to where you are, correct?
So I was an intern in AIT that we call them. And in 2012, I actually left for 2 years. So it kind of gets overshadowed now, but I was down at TBC Scottsdale, and had an absolutely wonderful experience down there. I worked with Jeff Plotz and Brandon Reese, and Brandon is now the new director of agronomy down there. So, right. I recommend any intern or young guy always go down to the desert, at least for a small period, get to see the overseed and the transition. I've never felt more like a grass farmer than I did when I was down there. Getting to see the different crops was pretty enlightening for me. But so really pretty brief period in the desert, and then came back to Spanish Bay as the assistant. Was there for with Jeff Steen for about 19-20 months, and then back with Chris here at Pebble. So, but the majority of my career has been on this property.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, your story is very similar to that of Jeff Corcoran at Oak Hill, who spent a long career at Oak Hill that started with an internship, and he had, I think, a little bit longer than 2 years. I think he had a 4 or 5 year stint in Boston before coming back. But just kind of interesting. I mean, when I first started in the business, what I was taught about superintendents is very transient. They're going to work here 3-4 years, they're moving on here, and then they're going to do 3 or 4 years there, and they're going here, and they're going to go from the desert to Florida to the Northeast to wherever. And when you're first starting in a business like that, I didn't know any different. But now there's so many awesome stories of folks like yourself and Jeff out at Oak Hill who've made whole careers at the properties, and just the advantages that provides. I bet you feel like every corner of that property more so than anyone outside of Chris probably, but who had an equally long stint there. But that's got to provide you a little comfort as you head into big events like the Women's Open. Yeah, it certainly can't hurt. You feel like there's not too many things that you haven't seen yet, especially going through all the summers that are really can change year to year on the West Coast, and all the championships and tournaments and crew. And I think that's probably what makes it the most special. It's just your familiarity with your team. All the assistants here were interns here at some point. So there's just a lot of continuity. So provides for very consistent conditions out in the golf course as well. So absolutely. But, it's been important for me to kind of throw some roots out here, and I can't really imagine myself anywhere else at this point. Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk a little in general about just kind of life at Pebble Beach and what that's like for a superintendent and a turf grass manager. Um, I've always considered the job there, and we spoke a little bit about it earlier, to be really among the most unique in the country, and not just because it is Pebble Beach and just this iconic venue and all the lovely drone shots and the pictures that you see of the golf course, but what we talked about with the fact that every day someone is playing that golf course who's it's been a lifelong dream. Just how unique is it, and do you appreciate it daily, or is it not advantageous to do that? Is it sometimes better just go, let's do the work that we know we need to do and not try and get ourselves lost in the fact that some magazine editor from Kansas is here for a dream vacation or something like that?
Yeah, totally. It's pretty humbling, when you really look at the big picture, to be a caretaker of this property. That, like you said, if you're playing Pebble Beach, the odds are it's because you're celebrating something with your family and friends. It's a momentous occasion and something that, you're trying to make. You're coming here because you want to make a lifetime memory, and our team does not take that for granted. Every day we're out here, we're trying to provide that once in a lifetime experience every time, keep our guests coming back. And if it's the only time they get to play Pebble Beach, they go back and tell their friends, hey, that was worth every single penny. And I just had a lifetime experience that, I'm going to remember forever. So it's certainly not lost on us. Do you feel a little bit more on your shoulders sometimes? Absolutely. It's a challenging position to be in because, they see what you get on TV during the AT&T or a major championship, and you see these primo conditions, and you're trying to maintain that 365 through aerifications or a drought or whatever's going on that every other golf course is familiar with. But definitely adds a little bit to the spice of the game for sure.
Do you have to manage that with like new employees when they come on? And I mean, they're probably locals, so I guess maybe some of the just the awe is maybe not there as it is for people, like myself. Every time I get to come out there, I got to spend about half a day just kind of taking a deep breath and taking it in. But is that something that you occasionally have to manage with new employees who might get just overwhelmed by the moment, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. And you see it more with our interns or AITs, guys coming from other parts of the world. That, there is a little bit, you're kind of starstruck in the beginning when you see the place and just see how big the operation is. Because it's not just Pebble Beach Company, Spyglass Hills, Spanish Bay, Del Monte. We're also in charge of taking care of the Hay, our par 3 golf course and practice facility. So it's a big property with a lot of moving parts. And it never really truly slows down. So I think the big adjustment for a lot of people is just the pace.
Yeah.
You're getting out ahead of play in the morning. I call it the fastest 5 hours in golf. You're trying to see as much of the property as you can while you can still see it and not impact golfers. So that's probably the biggest adjustment that people make. Adjustment I certainly had to make when I started here. But once you find your rhythm, we try to make it fit right in.
Yeah, I would imagine that's just something you have to be cognizant of when you're, evaluating new interns or new employees or things like that. You'll see how they're reacting to the pace, to the expectations, all of that stuff. So we talked several times about, I mean, you host a PGA Tour event, there's a Champions Tour event, even in years when you're not hosting major championships, you've got plenty of activity going on from a professional golf standpoint. How much does that help your team when an open rolls around, when a women's open rolls around? There's the fact that it is a bit of part of what you do each and every year.
Yeah, it definitely is a huge motivator for us, and when you're hosting championships like that, we're very fortunate to have a company and a support team that gives us all the tools that we need to be successful. And the team is very well provided for, taken care of. And so it's a huge motivator for us. And really, as soon as that book closes on, say, a 2019 US Open, you're opening the next one up, getting ready for 23. And I can tell you in 3 weeks, we're going to be getting ready for 27. That's just kind of how it works. You have to turn the page very fast. And if you look at our schedule now, being an anchor site, we're going 27 to 30 to 33. So there's not a whole lot of time in there to take a breather. So it's a huge motivation, but we take it to heart. It's a chance for us to, show off the property, showcase what we're doing to the golf course, and continue to improve from championship to championship. So we'll take all of our lessons learned and see how we can improve for the next one.
Yeah, you got all kinds of opportunities for lessons with that kind of pace. The other thing that I talked about earlier, and I wanted to just kind of get your thought on, what is easier to prepare for and I guess also clean up from a major championship or it's the concourse, right? I want to. I'm not going to. It is one of the most prestigious car shows in North America, where they basically, and you'll have to fill in my details here, they pretty much take over the 18th hole, correct?
Yeah, it's not just the 18th hole anymore. So we actually take over number one. Number one fairway is full of Ferraris, and they take over our third hole, 17th, 18th. So the show has expanded through the years due to its popularity. And it's pretty, if I wasn't a turf manager, I would say this is the coolest thing ever. I'm looking at these cars at Pebble Beach and getting to hobnob with some pretty important people. But doing the job that I do, it's something that makes me cringe a little bit. But to answer your question, I think preparing for a tournament is definitely harder than preparing for the concourse, because there's just so many details going over the property with a fine-tooth comb, but recovering from the concourse can certainly be a challenge, So they'll park the cars on Saturday, the show's on Sunday. So what that means is you have 48 hours that there's no irrigation, there's no maintenance being done, and cars are being driven on and off. Maybe they're spilling some gas or oil on the way, and you're kind of left with all the cleanup. So it's a pretty unique show, but and it does take place in the middle of the summertime, which makes it certainly a challenge. And then once it's over, you're trying to get those holes back in shape for the Pure, which is only 5 weeks after. So it can have its good years and bad years for sure, depending on the weather.
How much lead time do you get on that? Are you playing up until dark the day before and then they're rolling cars on, or is there any leeway at all on either side?
Yeah. So, to kind of give you the timeline, the show's on Sunday. Saturday is all set up. So it's when they're pulling all the cars onto one fairway, 18, 17, et cetera. So it's a pretty tight timeline, but up until 2 years ago, we used to actually play a 17-hole golf course on Saturday. So the golf course still had play going for 17 holes, and then 18 was closed down. Yeah. So it was pretty unique, but now we closed down the shut down the golf course for Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday's all set up. Sunday's the show. But Monday morning, we have tee times going up at 6:30. So you got to get everything out of there, and you got to clean up, down on 17 and 18 in front of play the best you possibly can, and keep sit and play through. So it's definitely one of those ones that I've always looked forward to tournaments, and AT&Ts and majors, and this is one you just kind of want to get over the hump and get through, so you can carry on with your summer.
Just you put it in the rearview mirror too.
Yeah,
it's a really bad pun with a car show, but
there you go.
Well, that's pretty amazing. I mean, it fits in obviously with the kind of pace and the stuff that you were talking about a little bit earlier there, but quite a unique situation. I know there are a number of places that have different kinds of events on their golf course that have nothing to do with the game of golf, whether it's hosting cross country meets or using their golf course as a parking lot. I know there are portions of like Brickyard Crossing in Indianapolis.
Sure, Rose Bowl too, right?
Yeah, they give up holes that for parking, or helicopter landings for big celebrities that are coming in or whatever. But
I think it's the 1 week on the peninsula where golf is not the main focus. That's how I like that. Once the car guys get in here, the focus changes for that brief period of time.
Well, probably not so bad to begin with, and then once you see what you're actually dealing with, it probably becomes a little more of a concern. So, well, Bubba, listen, I appreciate your time today. I want to finish up here with just a couple of quick hitters. Let you just kind of give me, we call them final shots because it matches up with a feature in the magazine we've had for a number of years. But just a couple of quick questions here. If you weren't a superintendent, what would you be doing right now, do you think?
Oh, well, realistically, kind of like we touched on earlier, probably maybe a journalist, sports reporter, if I could have been successful in that. But, if it was something that I'm probably not qualified for, it would I would have wanted to be a fighter pilot just so I could have a cool mustache and aviators,
There you go. Yeah, I always say relief pitcher, although at my age, not my rotator cuff would not. And it's funny because I always say relief pitcher, and I played baseball through high school, and I never pitched.
Yeah,
it was always like I caught. I was a first baseman, a second baseman, never pitched. Yet I think that's what I want to do. Maybe I think that's an easy job. I'm
gonna say if you can get that bullpen catcher or backup quarterback role, that's what you want.
Oh heck yeah. The more you can avoid getting hit on the football field, the better. So.
Exactly.
Most unexpected thing you've encountered on the golf course during your time at Pebble Beach? Again, we have talked about what an iconic place it is, and I'm sure there are incidents where people have tried to take advantage of that. Anything unexpected that you can share with a mixed audience here on the podcast?
Yeah. That's the ticker right there. Can you share? Back to Pebble being kind of this hallowed ground. Something that's unique, I guess, in a way is, you'll find a lot of ashes out here, people bringing their family members out and burying ashes 17, 18, 7. So I can tell you pretty religiously once a week, we'll find that. And I always kind of take that to heart too, as well. Okay. If you're taking your uncle out here and this is resting spot, that means a lot. So, that is interesting and also kind of humbling a little bit. We've mentioned Pebble Beach is a bucket list destination for many people. What's on your bucket list? Is there a place that you'd like to play that you haven't had an opportunity to play? Absolutely. I'm still trying to get on Augusta, but haven't met too many of the members yet. So I'm working on that one. But, I think St. Andrews is probably the top of that bucket list. I'd love to get to the old course.
Yeah, that would be a great opportunity. Away from the golf course, I'm sure you don't have a ton of time. You talked about losing extra sleep that you didn't do as an assistant. Do you have any hobbies, anything you like to do when you're not on the golf course?
Yeah, I got a few hobbies. I would say top of that list is an avid fisherman when I have the time. The Sierras, the Sierra Nevadas here in California provide a lot of opportunities to fish. Sure. You can make it up there. So when I'm away from the golf course, I try to get up into the hills and out of cell phone service. That's the most important thing. Turn the phone off for a couple of days. There is a luxury to that a lot of people don't appreciate until you get a chance to do it. I have a annual camping trip with some buddies from college, and that is one of the highlights is to get up at elevation where cell phones don't reach. You pay the piper when you come back down and your phone turns back on. But true. That phone starts pinging, you're like, back to reality. Yeah, we go back to the campsite. So, well, Bubba, again, thanks so much for doing this, especially with the tournament looming. I know you've got a full to-do list, and it probably takes you 7 days a week at this juncture and 10-12 hours a day, and you'll just continue on through the tournament. But best of luck with the event. We are, myself and my colleagues who get the opportunity to come out there, are super psyched. Never pass up an opportunity to come to Pebble Beach. So we look forward to seeing you here down the road a bit. And thanks again for taking the time today. Great, Scott. I really appreciate it. Thank you again. Well, that's a wrap on episode 53 of the GCSAA podcast. I want to thank Bubba Wright from Pebble Beach for taking the time to chat with us on the eve of the 2023 U.S. Women's Open. And again, yours truly, along with several other GCSA staffers, will be on the ground at Pebble Beach with behind-the-scenes updates on all the golf course management activities taking place there. So remember to keep tabs on gcmonline.com, the magazine's Twitter and Facebook feeds, and GCSA TV starting on Monday, July the 3rd. We always have plenty of irons in the fire when it comes to new content for the podcast, including the new video version available on GCSAA TV and the association's YouTube channel, so stay tuned for all of that. But for now, I'll bid you farewell with a thank you to podcast editor Evan Shapiro, to the fine folks at Envu for their ongoing sponsorship of the podcast, to the GCSAA Board of Directors and my colleagues at GCSAA headquarters in lovely Lawrence, Kansas. And of course, my thanks to each of you for subscribing, downloading, and listening and/or watching. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch up again very soon on the next episode of the GCSAA podcast.